Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about Sega Saturn emulation with Ymir, and Ymir just got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, Ymir version 0.3.1 is the latest and greatest update, and this one is a pretty big update. They say here, this release adds many performance optimizations to the VDP2 renderer, bringing up to 40% more performance on graphics-heavy games. Users have reported running Virtua Fighter 2 and Last Bronx at full speeds on an i7-2600K, and many cases of lower-powered CPUs are now capable of running Ymir with less stuttering. In my tests, it consistently runs faster than Mednafin, Chronos, and Yabus Shiro in high-profile games and a few obscure ones too. Now, I don't know about you, but these are pretty big claims. Ymir is 100% free, it's open source, it's available on GitHub, and it's also available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. If you are interested and wanted to learn more about this one, like everything we talk about, links are within the GitHub link in the bottom of the description below. I don't hide my sources. This is a very big and bright update for Ymir. And speaking about performance improvements, next up here we're talking about iGame. iGame is a front end to launching WHD load games and demos for the Amiga. And iGame just got a brand new update here to version 2.6.1. Taking a quick peek, there's a number of fixes and also a performance improvement. They say code optimizations to speed up the game list load and save, as well as folder scanning. And continuing to talk about performance improvements, next up we're talking about Virtual Boy emulation on the Nintendo 3DS with Red Viper. We've talked about Red Viper in the past, and I personally think Virtual Boy emulation on the 3DS makes perfect sense. Anyways here, Red Viper got a brand new update to version 1.3.0, and they say here, new rendering mode that downloads GPU rendered image to CPU for post-processing. Enabled in test chamber, meaning black walls are no longer transparent on old 3DS and performance is improved on new 3DS. Test chamber should now be fully compatible with good performance. And continuing to talk about performance improvements, next up we're talking about Windows game emulation on Android with GameNative. And GameNative got better compatibility and performance. It depends on device and game here. But GameNative is reportedly now working with Proton 11. Now, it's worth noting there's no official new release of GameNative up on GitHub just yet. At the time of filming, version 0.9.1 pre-release is the latest and greatest update. And that came out 5 days ago, and we talked about that one when it went live. Anyways, here it does seem within GameNative, it's now compatible with Proton 11. And taking a look, it does seem that performance is mixed. So there are some people really happy about it, saying better performance in a lot of games. And there are some people saying that performance isn't necessarily as good as Proton 10, and they're waiting for Proton 11 to be a little bit more mature. For example, this person here says, Lucky Tower ran worse, so did Replace. Recoin didn't start and crash. I'll think I'll skip V11 for now until it matures, not meant offensive. And this person says, yep, Rotato won't launch anymore with Proton 11, so back to 10 until 11 matures, as you said. And I'm curious to see if they have to make adjustments to make Proton 11 work a little bit better on their devices, or if they're just going with default configurations. I really don't know at this point in time. But interestingly, I've seen similar takes with GameHub, with the latest GameHub beta running Proton 11. So I don't know what has to be done here. I'm very curious, and if you've got any takes, any advice, or any ideas, let me know in the comments below here. I've seen some people say Proton 11 works way better. I've seen some people say Proton 10 works better because Proton 11 is buggy. Next up here, we're talking about GameStop and eBay. Now, we talked about this one in a previous video, and I was kind of surprised to see GameStop going to try to buy eBay. Well, it turns out that this is true, and it's a $55 billion proposal. So by the sounds of it here, they're making up the $55 billion with 50% of it being cash and 50% being GameStop stock. It's a very interesting acquisition proposal overall. It hasn't happened just yet, and eBay may turn it down. I'm not too sure on this one just yet. I'm still really confused as to what GameStop is going to use eBay for. I mean, with the decline in physical games, I'm wondering if they're envisioning eBay to be the future of GameStop with distribution. Again, let me know your thoughts on this one. I'm surprised that this one is happening and maybe going forward. And speaking about being surprised, I mean, taking a look at this news. I shouldn't be, but here we are. We're talking about Randy Pitchford. And for those who are unaware, Randy Pitchford is the CEO of Gearbox, who you may know is behind Borderlands. Randy is apparently using AI images now. Randy says here over on Twitter, I asked my primary AI tool to generate a selfie that indicates how they feel based on how I interact with it. And this is what it generated. Note the background words were not prompted and have zero relationship to anything real. I don't know why this was created in the first place. Now, in my opinion about this one, I'm super confused as to why Randy would do something like this. It's super weird. It doesn't make any sense, and it's only inviting controversy. But based on what I know about Randy, maybe this is just normal. Like, as a CEO, you would have to know that using Gen AI here in an image, especially as the CEO of a gaming company, that people are not going to receive it very well. The comments here on this picture are no surprise at all, and Randy is engaging with them left, right, and center. It's a really weird situation. Now, again, I don't know Randy here. I don't know why he even did this. I don't know if he's doing this as a marketing tactic to have his company talked about and his games talked about and him being talked about. I don't know what the rationale was behind this, but it's only inviting, well, just get your popcorn out and read the comments here. But in my opinion, this is negative press overall for Randy and also his company. However, it is worth pointing this out here. So someone says, my first thought was to reply, and I thought Gearbox is anti-AI, but then I remembered that here on Twitter, you're not really posting as a representative of Gearbox, and more like just a personal account thing, LOL. Almost jumped to conclusions too early. And Randy says, our policy is that we do not use AI for anything in any professional capacity that any customer could ever see. So let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. I mean, I've got opinions here, but at the same time, I don't know Randy, so my opinions don't really mean anything at all. If you know Randy better than I do, let me know your thoughts here. And is he trolling? Is this his kind of humor? Also, what about that new IP line on the board? It's a really weird situation overall that I'm having trouble trying to figure out. And speaking about AI, next up here, we're talking about China and AI and replacing workers. Now, this is music to my ears. I don't know about you. This is right up my alley, and hopefully it's up yours. I don't know, though. Let me know in the comments below here. But my biggest problem with AI is how it's being exploited for companies to replace workers. And this is a big win against something like that. So this is up on Tom's Hardware. If you're interested in reading more about it, you know where the links are. Chinese court rules companies can't fire workers just because AI is cheaper. Ruling says automation alone doesn't justify layoffs. Firing a worker for cheaper AI may be a crime. Now, I am really curious to see what happens moving forward here, and if this court ruling has any impact globally, any impact on any other country moving forward. My gut tells me that in North America here, the answer is no. But at the same time, I mean, I'm hoping, at least for me personally, I'm hoping that this is a broader stance overall. I mean, there are a lot of jobs that have been lost, a lot of reported jobs that have been lost because of AI. And AI is, well, it's definitely something. I'll just say from my point of view here, AI can be used for good. It can be used as an assistant to make life easier for a lot of people. Well, what I find here is that it's being exploited rather to just flat out replace people. And speaking about people, oh, kinda. Next up here, we're talking about torrents and qBittorrent, one of my favorite torrent clients. Anyways, here qBittorrent just got a brand new update. The first update in a year. At the time of filming, version 5.2.0 is the latest and greatest. And this update has a number of performance improvements, bug fixes, and brand new features. For example here, they've improved resume queue load performance, and also here, now it shows free disk space in the status bar, which may actually be pretty good for people transferring large files. And speaking about transferring files, next up here, we're talking about Plex. And if you use Plex and pay for it, you're probably not going to be happy with this news here. It's being reported that Plex Remote Pass for streaming from your own NAS becomes 50% more expensive. So this information is being reported over on Notebook Check. Feel free to check that out for more information. And I believe the original source of this information is up here on Reddit. And it seems that starting June 1st, 2026, renewals for subscriptions will increase in price. The monthly price is going from $2 US, $199 to be specific, to $3 US, and the annual is going from $20 US to $30 US. So taking a look at the comments, and there's a number of people here who are happy that they purchased the lifetime license back in the day before it went up in price. It's around, I think, $250 now. This person says, inserting the standard lifetime pass becomes better value every day comment here. And this person points out, hopefully they don't sunset that with Plex 2.0. I am curious to hear from you on the matter if you pay for Plex. I mean, would this price increase push off the platform to something like Jellyfin? Or will you swallow the cost because the Plex service is just worth it to you? Very curious to hear. Next up here, we're shifting from hardware to software and talking about chargers and Anker and Ugreen. Now, for full transparency, when I buy chargers, I buy Anker or Ugreen. Those are the two brands I stick to because I've had really good luck with them and because I trust them. I think they're the same parent company, if I'm not mistaken. Ugreen is generally priced a little bit better than Anker, and at the same time, they are super similar products overall, at least from my experience. Anyways, I was on Amazon. I was taking a look at a replacement for my Anker 20-watt brick here, just looking for something maybe a little bit more powerful. And I stumbled across this one here. So this appears to be on sale right now for 25% off at $30. And it's an Anker charger, 45 watts with an included smart display. So taking a quick peek at the listing here, and I did notice that the prongs on this one go 180 degrees. So my current one, this 20-watt charger, the prongs just do 90 and that's it. 180 might be a little bit more handy, especially if you wanted to position the USB-C port in a certain direction. But overall, it's a neat product on for a pretty good discount. But if you didn't like the screen, just the standard 45-watt charger is for $25, so you save like $4 overall. Or you can pick up a Ugreen for $33, which is a little bit more, but you get two chargers. These are just 30-watt chargers, but at the same time, I mean, you get a standalone 30-watt charger and another standalone 30-watt charger. Pretty cool overall. And at this point in time, I was thinking about picking up the 45 watt, but seeing two here for $33 is, might be a little bit more enticing. Let me know your thoughts on these in the comments below, and if you've got a better recommendation, because I currently am in the market for a new charger. Let me know your thoughts. And speaking about buying stuff, next up here, we're talking about Pokemon cards, and this person, instead of camping outside the store, decided to, I guess, camp inside the store. So listen to this headline here. Man hid in Best Buy at closing to get drop on new Pokemon cards. When you think you've seen it all. So what baffles me about this one, well, there's a number of things that baffle me about this one, but at the same time here, especially for camping, you want to do it outside. It's way nicer outside than inside. Anyways here, the big thing that baffles me is Valve right now is in some lawsuits against gambling and loot crates, and I would argue that something like Pokemon cards is way worse for gambling. I mean, this arguably is encouraging illegal activity, breaking the law, and also potentially putting people in danger. So not to go too far down that hole, and I'll just leave it at that, but at the same time here, it makes you wonder where priorities are at in terms of lawsuits going after companies. And I mean, Pokemon cards, you could argue, is gambling as well, and kind of like loot crates or physical loot crates, because you don't know what you're getting in there, and some stuff can be worth quite a bit of money, and some people are willing to hide out in stores to get the drop on other people for picking them up. Let me know your thoughts on this one. It's a whole can of worms. Next up, we're switching from card gaming to gaming, and gaming without loot crates. We're talking about fan game translations, and Emulation has just released their brand new monthly video here for April, talking about the game fan translation recap. I highly recommend checking out the video. It's just over 20 minutes long. I mean, 20 minutes and 50 seconds if you wanted to be specific. And everything is timestamped. It appears that Shin Megami Tensei is kind of dominating the charts here. There are a lot of big name games that have been translated, like Tales of Phantasia and even more. And last up here, we're shifting from software to hardware and talking about OneXPlayer. And OneXPlayer have just unveiled here the OneXPlayer X2 Mini. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of information about it just yet, other than what it kind of looks like, and this seems to be a prototype given the buttons and a few other things on it. But it does feature an AMD Ryzen AI Max Plus 395. So performance on this thing should be pretty darn good overall for a handheld. I'm guessing it's also not going to be cheap. Don't have a release date just yet, don't have a price just yet, but at the same time, this appears to be OneXPlayer's next handheld. So feel free to let me know your thoughts on this one. The only thing right now I can say is that I hate the D-pad. Based on what I can see here, it does not seem that this D-pad is going to be fun at all to use. Maybe I'm wrong with that one, but based on what I see here, I don't think so. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.